Okay, day 5. We're just
Day 5.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So exciting.
Okay, seeing lots of people jump on.
Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to day 5. Freedom from alcohol. Lovely to see you here. Why don't you pop a message in the chat and tell us where you are and tell us if this is your first time here. Oh, Alberta, Canada. Hello, Sherry. Tell us if you've been here before or if this is your first visit. And we're really excited to say that there are signups happening and would love to know any questions that you might have for us today. Portland, been here most days, all week from the UK. 5th day, Jen, Cincinnati, 5th day, my goodness, really impressive. Ginger, every day this week from Texas. First day live, watched all the recordings, Jen. Wonderful, all week, Mom for Life, love. Wonderful. We're really excited about this subject today. Of course, it's Saturday in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. We're really excited about the signups and would love to know your questions. If you have questions about the program, the 5 months as it unfolds.
And Monday we'll be taking a lot. So don't forget, Monday will be Q&A. So
Q&A.
There'll be a post that will go up in the Facebook group. And you can put all your questions there. You can email, you can message, whatever, just get them. And we will also show up live and we will answer as many as possible, but about really anything to do with sobriety. We'll answer them about the stuff you've learned from the program, this masterclass. We'll answer them about sobriety. You can ask us personal questions, and any questions about the 5-month program. We'll answer all of those as well.
Oh, Sean, my book led you here. Isn't that nice to know?
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me that or telling us that. That's wonderful.
Make sure you, Sean, make sure you click the little blue thing in the chat to everyone, because nobody else can see what you're posting. So make sure you do everyone do the drop down blue thing to everyone. I don't know why it does that in the webinars. It's annoying.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a big Canadian like contingent, Anne.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All around the world, actually. It's just incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
UK, Australia.
So one of the things that, because Anne is a writer and that's her wheelhouse, one of the things that we're doing over the, well, you tell them what we're going to be doing weekly over the 5-month program.
One of the things I love to do is to give people journaling prompts to help you get going in your thoughtful daily, I hope daily pages, morning pages. And one of my very favorite prompts is, what are you on the edge of? That is such a provocative prompt, but we'll have related prompts related to the material that we're discussing. And we'll give those out at each session. And it can really fuel your writing practice. And a writing practice, of course, is a beautiful way to know yourself. And of course, sobriety is all about knowing yourself, all about coming home to yourself. And I always say it's not just recovering the old you, but actually a new you. You get to choose the parts you want to keep and the parts that you want to discard. And there's a lot of growth. As Veronica said yesterday, a call to growth has been there for a while. And journaling's a wonderful way to explore that growth, explore what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, habits and even people, setting boundaries. Your journal is a private place to really do a rough draft of the life that you're going to embrace with both hands. And so we'll make that a big part of every session, closing on every session, so that you can take that away. I was talking yesterday about gratitude, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, so that's part of one of the tools that we're going to use to dig into the material as we go through the 5 months. On that note, I was going to grab one and I don't know where they are. Today's prize winner is going to get I have a really nice Soberful journal. It says Grateful, Powerful, Soberful, and I have a pen and I have a nice little tote bag. So that's going to be the prize for today's homework. Yesterday's winner is Julia Mailer. Is Julia here? Julia, are you here? You're going to win the Soberful water bottle. So if my team will reach out to you, or you can message us, and we will send you that. So yeah, so this is interactive. Soraya, am I saying that correctly? I'm dyslexic and I mangle people's names on a regular basis, so I do apologize. Yes, please put your questions and comments. I kind of going to ask, when we're delivering the content, you might want to listen and kind of comment afterwards. But okay, so are we ready to get started? Today we're going to be talking about, no, we can't hear you. We can only see what you're writing. That's it. We're going to be talking about how to fall in love with sobriety. Who feels like that is a million miles away? Because like if you'd have said that to me before I stopped drinking, and even just after I stopped drinking, I'd have been like, yeah, that's a long shot. And again, back to some of the content that we talked about earlier in the week, I was very convinced of the belief that alcohol is the best way to have fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relax, reward myself. So I felt I was giving up all of the best things in life to not drink. So I couldn't even imagine like falling, I can't even get my head around the idea of falling in love with sobriety. Did you feel the same, Anne?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Total FOMO.
Yeah. So that's a normal part of the process. Well, I want to just say this kind of before we get started. This is really important to know. Early sobriety is not how it is long term. It's really, really important. Fear of missing out is what it means, Soraya. Early sobriety, which is about this first year or so, is very unique, right? It's a very unique experience. There's all the triggers, the cravings, the navigating life without alcohol. How do you do all of the things? How do I do Christmas and New Year and parties and weekends? There's like readjustments in your friendship. It takes, I think, about a year for your body to recover. Your sleep, your energy, your gut bacteria, your brain. Alcohol is a toxin. Your body is doing everything it can to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And your body has become used to being chemically interfered with. So it takes a while for your body to recover. I think it can take up to a year. And we can absolutely, in the first year, we can sometimes feel bored. Like, is this it? I remember when I was about 6 months sober, and I was home on a Saturday night, and I cleaned my apartment from top to bottom. And I remember cleaning my toilet at 10 p.m. thinking, that's it. Everyone my age is out having the best time, and I'm cleaning my bathroom. Like, is this it? Is this as good as it gets? Because this sucks. Now, you may have some days like that in early sobriety. I'm not going to lie to you. You may have some like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know. But that will go. It's a phenomenon that is just in early sobriety. I cannot remember the last time I was bored. And this is before I had kids. Like, I can't remember So getting sober is about putting weight on the sober end. We've talked about the work that we have to do, the resentment work. If you haven't seen the video from Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday's videos are really important. So make sure you catch up with them. You have about 10 days before they're taken down. We go deep into what the work actually is. So this is drinking. This is a seesaw. This end is alcohol and this end is sobriety. How you get sober is consistently, there's that word again, put weight on the sober end. So what you're doing right now is you're putting weight on the sober end. It's the things that we do consistently that will eventually, gravity takes over and sobriety embeds itself in the earth and alcohol flies off, right? That's how it works. So the first year is doing that. It's so new. It's such a big lifestyle change. But then it just becomes your new normal, right? It just becomes your new normal. You're just used to, you don't think about not drinking. You just live your life. It's full. You feel good. You navigate life easier. You deal with situations much more easily. It's really, and that just, you know, and then what happens is you get to this point where you're just, everything just feels and seems so much better. Can you remember when you hit that point, Anne?
I do remember savoring reading at night, and I remember savoring mornings in a new way, feeling really, I was at the lake and really, you know, not hungover. And I remember this little moment where my son went out and bought me a badge with a turkey, meaning going cold turkey. And I thought it was sweet and tender and funny at the same time. And there were just some highlights of those early days that were lovely. But you have to cobble it together. You're right. It doesn't happen overnight.
It continues to get better from day one. Number one, just not being hungover and feeling like crap. You're going to feel better. And I think there's a few sort of like there is a bit of a roller coaster. Like, oh my God, like I remember hitting day 30 and just being like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Like I couldn't believe how great I felt. And then it hit me. It's because I wasn't hungover and I was hungover all the time. And I was like, God, this is like, I wish someone had told me about this, that we could feel like this every day. And then you hit some difficult times because of the feelings and emotions, because you don't have boundaries or you have resentments or you're, you know, trying to deal with other people, all of that kind of stuff. And then, so there's a lot of that in the early days. So it continues to get better. But I remember distinctly being at a concert in my second year, maybe I was 18 months sober or something. And I remember I was maybe 28-ish. And I remember going to this concert with friends who drank. And I just had this massive realization that I was having more fun than they were, because they kept missing songs because they were going to get alcohol. There was a line, and then they had to go to the toilet and there was a line, and they kept missing, like, I don't know, I love music. And a lot of the time you see people, it's a once in a lifetime experience, right? Like, and you pay all that money and you have to get there and all those things, and then you miss it because you're queuing up for beer. It doesn't make any sense. And I was dancing my ass off, and I realized I was having more fun than they were. And it just hit me. And I was like, oh my God. And it had been like that for a while. I just kind of hadn't realized. You sort of have to catch up with yourself. Okay, let me talk about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about falling in love with sobriety, how sobriety is a journey back to ourselves, and a little bit about why other people will take your sobriety personally. So here's the thing about having an alcohol problem. When we have an alcohol problem, we leave ourselves by degrees. We become people we don't recognize. We lie, we manipulate, we are full of shame and guilt. One of the things that killed me, I wonder if it's the same for you, Anne, is I was showing up and people thought that Veronica was this person, and inside that isn't who I am. I was so disconnected from myself during my drinking years.
Yes.
And that just crushed me, because it just felt so awful that people, that I wasn't who I really am. I have no other way of explaining it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, we compromise our values.
Mm-hmm.
Do things that we wouldn't dream of doing. I remember ordering bottles of champagne for my staff at a Christmas event. Obviously too expensive and really difficult, being confronted by my boss on why I had done that. You know, hadn't shown the right leadership, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah,
Deeply
and
embarrassing.
it's not who you are, is it? Sorry, can everyone hear me, Meta, if I do that? A couple of people have said that to me recently, so I wonder if there's something wrong with this microphone. If I hold it there, can you hear me better? Okay, great. Yeah, and so people would think, oh, you're flaky. Oh, Anne's flaky. She doesn't, think things through, and that's not who you are, but that's how you present, isn't it?
Right.
And that's what kills us, is like, I presented as a flaky party girl, with not much substance, and that wasn't who I was on the inside, but I didn't know how to reclaim myself. So I want to tell you, can't use my other hand. Sobriety is really just a journey back to yourself. FYI, the bonus workshop for everyone who signs up for the program early, on the 13th of February, Anne and I are actually doing one of the bonuses for signing up early is a workshop with us, and it's a standalone workshop, and it's all on values, and it's all on returning to yourself. So the sobriety and the work that we have to do is about, it's not just about not drinking, it's about returning to yourself, because we've lost ourselves. And we see that when we, right at the beginning, we can see how far apart we are from the person that we know ourselves to be inside and the person that we have become. Who has felt that and knows that? It's a really, really, yeah. Jay, that's exactly how I felt. I didn't like myself. I couldn't bear myself. I wanted to run away from myself. That's why we drink. I didn't like myself. And the reason that you don't like yourself is because you're not showing up in the world in a way that is authentic and in alignment with who you really are. That's why we don't like ourselves. And that's why you need an anesthetic. That's why you need to drink or drug or scroll down screens or eat or whatever. We have to anesthetize ourselves from if we are not in alignment with ourselves. I want you to just know, Anne and I don't walk through the world perfect in this, like, oh, bless you all. Like, we are very human and we mess up and make mistakes and have human moments. We're just living in the solution and growing. And it is messy and it is human. So please don't ever think that we walk around being like perfect, because we really don't. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've messed up in sobriety, but it's just when I'm sober, I have a chance to learn from my mistakes and grow, which is the point of mistakes, by the way. When I was drinking, I just kept repeating them and didn't go anywhere. So everything is recoverable when we get sober. And the most important, like, this is, and I talk about this in my book, don't live the rest of your life not being who you really are. That is a tragedy. However many years you have ahead of yourself, I want you to be who you really are. Because there is no other way for people like us. There is no other way. Does that make sense? So one of the things that we're going to experience when we try to get free from alcohol is we are going to have some pushback from the people around us. Who's had this experience where people begin to push back and, like, you, that was ridiculous, you don't have a problem. So here's several things to know. When you are a drinker, you really want to drink with people who drink like you, right? I don't want to drink with people who are going to have one glass of wine. I want to drink with people who are going to get the second bottle. and then probably the third, and then maybe some shots. That's the kind of people I want to drink with. I remember dating this guy once. I had left him for my fiance, and I was in my early 20s and everyone binge drank, right? We were at university, so everyone did. So we would do that. And I remember going out we went out on the Friday night and we got drunk. And then Saturday, he was like, so what do you want to do today? And I was like, go to the pub. What a strange question. And he was looking at me when I said go to the pub, going, we're in London. It's the cultural capital of Europe. There's a million things we could do. Why don't we go and do some of those things? That didn't last very long, because what I used, like Saturday, then you could go to the pub at lunchtime and that turned into the evening, and the same on Sunday. So that's kind of people I wanted to be around, who wanted to do that. So when you stop, it's going to upset the apple cart, because if you have a peer group who drinks the same way that you do, and you're saying alcohol's not agreeing with me, I'm going to stop drinking, I've got a problem, everybody will interpret that personally, and they will think, well, what does that mean about my drinking then? And it will make them feel very uncomfortable, and they may not be ready to examine their own relationship with alcohol. So what is easier for them? They just want to feel comfortable as quickly as possible. What's easier for them is for them to tell you that you don't have a problem. In my book, I call them the sudden addiction experts. So these are people who suddenly overnight have qualified in addiction, and they're going to say, you don't have a problem. Like, you just need to maybe cut it out one night a week, but you're really fine, right? They have known what they're doing is they're talking about themselves and their own relationship with alcohol. They're not talking about you and your relationship with alcohol. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of people did you meet, Anne? How much pushback did you get?
I got a lot of pushback when I came out with my book, and in the beginning, and I had a lot of your problem isn't that large, or you don't have a drinking problem. And I learned very quickly to always have a drink in my hand when I went to a social event. So arrive, because at first there would be this confusion, there was apple juice and red, or people would say, what do you want, red or white? And people wouldn't have alternatives. This is, 15 years ago. So always have a drink in my hand, and that often meant bringing my own drink. And then I used my journalism skills, which is, how are you? Changed it really quickly to how are you? How's your job? How's your family? Most people love talking about themselves, and just turn the mic over to them. And it would usually shut down the conversation. If it didn't shut down the conversation, you knew you were dealing with somebody with probably some considerable alcohol problems themselves.
Bingo. The only people who really have a problem with you not drinking are the people who have a problem with alcohol themselves, and it makes them feel very, very uncomfortable. Everyone else will be fine. And I'm going to tell you, it's a really good way to find out who your real friends are, because your real friends will support you and be like, fine, going for a hike or coffee or a movie or something that doesn't necessarily involve alcohol. So it's a really good way to find out who your friends are. And the people who do push back are the people who have a problem with alcohol themselves, and they won't like it. It's really one thing that I found really interesting, as I've been sober a long time, when I had kids, I've noticed, like when my kids went to school and stuff like that, there was a kind of group of moms who would drink together, and that's fine. But there'd be a certain group where drinking was the main kind of event of the play day or whatever. And I never got included in that. Like they didn't know who I am or what I did. It's just didn't ever gravitate towards each other. And I always found moms who didn't drink or barely drank. There was loads of them there. It's really interesting. Like when I first got sober, so when I stopped drinking at 27, I'm British. I'm almost 51. It's like having two heads in the UK to not drink in your 20s. Like, I mean, I had the pushback that I got wasn't from people I knew. necessarily. It was from like people I'd meet who, you know, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't drink, I'm fine with a Diet Coke or whatever, would be like, what? Like people just couldn't compute it. It like it just didn't, they couldn't get it. And that was where I got the pushback. Like how, like and I got asked quite a few times, well, how do you have fun? Like, and they just can't, they couldn't take it in. And that always kind of riles me slightly, because I'm like, what makes you think I'm not having fun? Like, what makes you think I'm not? That assumption that people jump to so quickly. Obviously I'm over that now, but that was the pushback that I got.
Right.
So one thing that will need to happen, and that, again, this is back to the early sobriety is not how it is long term, is your significant relationships will all need to be renegotiated. And that's part of the just how it is in early sobriety. So I remember, oh God, I wasn't very sober, 3 or 4 months. And my best friend came to visit me where I was living at the time in Key West. And we had always, you know, drinking, we drank together, we got drunk together. She's just one of those people that by then was beginning to drink less and just naturally, you know, stopped and just doesn't hardly ever drinks. And I remember thinking, am I going to drink when she comes? And I didn't know. Like I didn't know which way it was going to go. Like maybe I'll just have a few glasses of wine with her just when she's here. Am I going to tell her? Like I didn't know. And I think I told her, and she was like, she was really supportive. And we went out and we did, you know, I was beginning to discover that a lot of my friends didn't want to go out till 4 a.m. and get slaughtered. That was me that was driving that. And she was quite happy going for dinner, and she had the odd glass of wine, and it didn't bother me, and I didn't want to have it. And there was, I don't know, I want to say there was a slight renegotiation, but not massively. But there was definitely, you know, I had another friend where we would just do different things together, and they were perfectly happy to do that. So the people who want to meet up and drinking is like the biggest reason for meeting up, that will fall away. Those friendships will fall away because we don't have anything in common. And drunk people are really, really boring. Drunk people are really boring and repetitive.
Yes, they are.
They're not fun.
No.
Right? They're selfish, boring, and repetitive. It makes me laugh because they just think that they're having fun. And I'm like, okay. So there will be a renegotiation of some of your relationships. Like how are we? Like we always used to have boozy lunches. Did you have that with anybody?
Definitely. Always. Journalism. And in the university sector fundraising, there would be events. And it was really interesting, my first weekend of being sober, when my best friend and her 2 daughters were with me at the lake and said, if you're giving up drinking, we won't have any alcohol. And basically carried me through that first weekend with a lot of love and a lot of support and a lot of solidarity. And it's but I think what is difficult is that some people read this as prohibitionism. I don't care what other people do.
Yeah.
It's not my business.
Yeah.
That's the attitude I take. I also take the attitude that I also drank and enjoyed it for a while. And let's face it, it's fun. But when it becomes a problem, you take ownership for yourself, and that's your responsibility. And I certainly, after the book came out, was seen as a prohibitionist. And there was a cocktail party where someone turned to someone close to me and said, Anne, oh, I hope you never drink in front of her. That would really upset her. And of course, it doesn't upset me at all. It doesn't upset me. Just you choose your path, I choose mine.
That is a really good point. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think there is this kind of assumption that you've become this kind of moral prohibitionist and nobody should drink. I was the same. I don't care. I had a group of friends in my late 20s, and when I lived in Cambridge in England, like I was in my late, I love dancing. I love to dance. I love to get dressed up, and I wanted to flirt with boys. And my friends all, actually a lot of them, I had a kind of Australian, New Zealand kind of group, and a few Brits, and they all drank and they loved me because I was a designated driver. However, I was very clear, I'm fine driving there, but when I'm ready to leave, I leave. So I'm not waiting around for you. And we would go out and dance, and I would get to maybe 11:30, midnight, and I was good. I'd had a great time. I'd danced and maybe flirted with some boys. People would getting drunk then, and also I can tell when the cocaine comes out, that everyone's, and I'm like, I'm done. And then I'd drive home, and then Sunday morning go for a run at 8 a.m. And yeah, I don't care what anyone else. The most important thing is that I don't drink. That's the most important thing, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't gravitate towards, I mean, you naturally gravitate away from big drinkers because they're unattractive, and you will both you will make them feel very uncomfortable. They won't want to be around you either. But
No,
people who have a drink here and there or whatever, couldn't care less, doesn't matter. And that's a great place to be, actually, isn't it? When you're sober and you're with a friend and they want to have a glass of wine and you barely notice, and there's no issue. Like, you can get to that place as well.
definitely.
One of the things that clients say to me when they get on a call with me is, and I know journalism has a big reputation for hard drinking. People will say to me, in my industry, people really drink. And I'm going to tell you, it's every industry. Lawyers.
It's every industry. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my biggest client group is actually doctors and nurses, teachers, salespeople. It doesn't matter. And the other one is where I live. There's a big drinking culture. And I want to tell you, that's everywhere. There's no
Yeah.
there's no differentiation. Everybody, there is just this really big drinking culture, whatever we do, wherever we are. So we want to navigate this first year. We want to be prepared for the ups and the downs that will happen as we are navigating this new life and this new reality. We're going to have to renegotiate friendships, and we have to going to consistently put weight on the sober end by doing the deeper work. And then something just happens. And I don't even know if it's falling in love with sobriety. I feel like it's falling in love with your life. What happens if you do those things is you gradually return to yourself. And that, and it's almost like a click happens. And that's when you begin to feel comfortable in your own skin, and you realize that you're just all right. I really did dislike myself. I hated myself. And you don't come back to this point where you're like, I'm just the most amazing, I'm just incredible. It's just like, I just thought, you know what, you're all right. You are all right. You're good enough. You're not like this perfect, amazing at anything, but you are good enough. And then I felt comfortable in my own skin. So I fell in love with my life. And then I fell in love with, which meant sobriety. We do this, the stuff that we're going to teach in the inner circle is part of our personal development practice that we have done for years and years and years. Personal development, everybody has to do it. It maintains our mental and emotional health. But we don't think about drinking. We don't think about staying away from alcohol. We just live our lives. And we have just these really great practices that keep enriching our lives and helping us grow. And eventually you just get to that bit if you keep going. And that's the bit I don't want any of you guys to miss. What's it been like for you, Anne?
Well, it's funny. As you were talking, I was thinking of the fact that I have an annual Christmas party for my family, and I bought some wine for it last year, and then it came around to this year, and I still had wine from last year, and it would never occur to me. It can happen in the house, and it never occurred to me to drink it or even really see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a non-event.
Mm-hmm.
It's a non-event for me. But I am careful. I get out of situations. So as you said, people become boring, you know, or they're the sloppy drunks. I find at 10:30, it's time to leave a dinner party. People start repeating themselves and it's not fun. Time to go.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with going to bed early and just I'm an early riser. I enjoy the morning. So really taking the best out of being sober, because there's so many what I would call greatest hits of appreciating your life, knowing your life, being 2 feet in your life.
Yeah. So keep going no matter what. The most important thing is that you don't drink. Everything else is negotiable after that. Consistently do things that support your sobriety. Do the deeper work, because otherwise you're leaving 90% of what's on offer on the table. Sobriety is 10% not drinking, and that's vital and important, and 90% emotional sobriety, which is emotional sobriety is beginning that journey back to yourself. And to do that, we have to find out who we really are. Again, this is work all human beings have to do. Who you really are, why you feel the way you do, why you behave the way you do, why you have these patterns, why you have these responses, why life is not working out the way you want. What ways could you shift that? I will, one of the things I'm very, very clear about, as long as you have breath in your body, you are being called to grow, and growth is possible for everybody. It's the how. We need to have the how. I find that a lot of people get sober and are just doing this little bit of this and little bit of that program. I want to just be really clear. Our sobriety has to be active, not passive. It's not the work is not listening to podcasts, reading Quit Lit, exercising, attending support meetings. That is not the work. Those things are great. Those are really helpful. But what they are information, which is very good. We need information. And they are support, and they are a lot of identification and inspiration. That's what I see a lot of people do. They identify, they go, oh my God, that's me. And inspiration. Oh my God, could I have that life? Could that be possible? Could I be like that too? But what's missing is the how. How exactly do I get from the land of drinking and believing that alcohol is the best way to have fun, etc., to the land of sobriety and falling in love with my sobriety? What's missing is the how. My belief and my experience is the how is the deeper work. It is having rock solid boundaries, identifying and balancing your needs, uncovering your limiting beliefs and changing them in your subconscious mind, being able to deal with resentments, and resolving any trauma or wounds that we carry from our past. That is the work. I mean, there's some other stuff about relationship and communication and all that kind of stuff, but that's the how. That is active. That's the active work of revealing ourselves to ourselves. That's the work, revealing ourselves to ourselves. Now, you don't have to work with us, but you have to do this work somewhere. You have, if you want, if you don't want to settle just for the 10% of not drinking, if you want everything that's on offer and to fall in love with your sobriety, you have to do this work, and you will continue to be triggered and called to do this work over and over. Who knows that they have been called to do this work before, and they've kind of got to the edge and then gone, and resistance has shown up, and they've talked themselves out of it, and like all the reasons that they can't, and it just comes around again. Just comes around again.
There's a good question here. Can you do the work from following your book?
I think I said it earlier in the week. I think that there's many, a lot of it depends on our motivation. Sure, of course, do as much as what is possible for you. If you can, I think One thing I'll say is about doing it on your own is I don't think we can really self-reflect or trust our own thinking always. So having somebody else to help us see what is there is important. But of course, I think my book, that's why I wrote it, because I wanted to go, this is the how. It's here. This is the how. Do this. It's, you know, sometimes we need help applying the how.
Good answer.
Hold on, I'm just looking at the questions. So it's about building the framework. It's about having a framework. And someone's just said this. I did the same thing. When I got sober, all that was available, this is back almost pre-internet. I mean, the social media, nothing like that was available. There weren't really any options. It was AA or maybe go to rehab. And I know when Anne got sober, there wasn't, I mean, the internet, but there wasn't really a whole lot of choices. So we were desperate. So we just did what was there.
Right.
And the 12 steps gave me a framework to my house. And then I had to go and do some deeper work because I had a lot of stuff around my childhood. I had some really entrenched relationship. My relationship history was a train wreck. And that continued when I was sober. And I didn't know why it didn't just stop. And it's because I hadn't got to the abandonment and beliefs. A lot of it was limiting beliefs. I still had, when I was sober, entrenched belief that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't going to be loved because I wasn't good enough. And that just, when you believe that about yourself, what do you think you're going to get in life? You just get, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I was about 3 years sober, and then I hit a wall and a rock bottom in sobriety. And that was a gift. I got the gift of desperation, and that then pushed me into doing the deeper work, which is what I have done ever since, and the stuff that I teach in all my programs. I had to get to underneath the bonnet. But we have to have we need to have a framework. We need to kind of have a framework and the how in place, and that's what the inner circle is. It's both of those things. It's a framework and the house. But the 12 steps is a framework. Women for Sobriety, I can't remember what they call them. What is it they call them? Women for Sobriety. Is it the statements? That's a framework. Smart Recovery is also based on REBT, rational motive behavioral therapy. That's a framework. What we teach in our program is a framework with the how as well. We're going to wrap things up in a few minutes. What questions do you have? Let me have a look.
What is different working with you than AA?
So AA is a spiritual program based on ancient spiritual wisdom, and it's peer-led. The difference working with us is that we are qualified and experienced practitioners and therapists, and this is a therapeutic program to deal with feelings and emotions and trauma as well. The better question, when did you recognize that it wasn't sustainable? And is that question to me or someone else, Jay? When does people say that? One thing people say to me a lot is like, oh my God, you were so wise to see it at 27 and stop. I wasn't. I'm going to tell you, I wasn't. I was desperate. I was so desperate to not feel the way that I was feeling and live the way that I was living that I would have done anything. I think, is that true of you as well, Anne?
Yeah, I was certain I was going to die.
Yeah.
There wasn't an option.
Yeah. So those of you who want to go to the next step, make sure, and Carrie will put the links in here, but it's in the Facebook group and you will have sent it by email. Make sure you get your application in, and then you will be asked to choose to select an information session to come along with Anne and I. And in those information sessions, it'll be in a meeting format so we can talk and speak to each other. And we would like to answer every question that you have we want you to do due diligence. We're not, as you can probably tell, we're not marketing salespeople. We are therapists. We are presenting a way that will, we have lots of free stuff out there. Go take everything you need from the free stuff. I've had lots of people do a lot of my free events over and over and really just gain so much from them. Awesome. They're also a way so that you can check us out. You can see that we are the real deal, that you can, we can do some teachings and you can see that we understand our material. We want you to do all of that. We want you to make a very informed choice so that you are fully committed. We want to work with women who are just fully committed and ready to do this work. It's okay to feel frightened. It's okay to have resistance. In fact, it would be weird if those things weren't happening. You will feel resistance. You will feel fear. It's completely normal. I will tell you, all my programs, at the end of them, nobody wants them to end. At the beginning, it can be quite like, oh God, what am I doing? Oh, have I done the right thing? That's really normal. That's resistance showing up. Remember, we talked about that on Wednesday. Resistance will show up when we get called to grow and called to change. By the end, everybody knows each other really well. Do you know, I actually just got a message this morning. I have a group. It's going to end in February. Small group. One of the ladies is 30 and one of the ladies is 55. And that 30-year-old messaged me, said, one thing that's really surprising, it gives me chills. One thing that's really surprised me is I've met one of my best friends and she's 25 years older than me. And I never would have imagined that. They're actually going to London together at the end of February they both love London and one of them has a work event. And so that's another thing that happens is we will build community. I have had people go on vacation together from my groups. I've had people someone's city and they meet for lunch and coffee. So the other part of joining the inner circle is about building community and finding a peer group of just random people all over the world who are also going through exactly what you're going through. And that's one of the beautiful experiences of being in a long group program like this. You can read in the information sheet all the stuff that, you know, we're going to do and we're going to deliver. And we're going to go over to the VIP session in just a couple of minutes. Any questions, anything else, Anne, before we close?
Yeah, someone asked how many people will be in the group, which is a good question.
Yeah, it depends, and I'll tell you why. The way we're going to do it is Anne and I will be facilitating it together, and then we're going to do breakout groups. So the breakout groups will be smaller, but probably around 20, 25, something like that. Yeah, we've had a great time. And don't forget to come along on Monday and we will answer a bunch of questions. So come along on Monday, answer your questions, ask your questions. We will answer them. It's the end of a long week. I can't speak. Doc says FedEx is here. Amanda's saying, what do you suggest what people of low income to? Go to Smart Recovery, AA, or Women for Sobriety, or Refuge Recovery. They're all listed in the back of my book, by the way. In the back of my book, it's every in-person and online resource. When I got sober, I didn't have any money. I couldn't afford anything. I just went to AA. That's all and as soon as I was back on my feet, then I paid for some therapy and all that kind of stuff. Okay, everybody, we're going to wrap it up and we'll see everybody who's in the VIP group in about 12 minutes. And we'll see the rest of you on Monday. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.